Hello everybody and welcome. I'm just going to give it a couple seconds, but if you're just joining me for the first time, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Evelyn Knight and I am an owner of a child care center. Just like most of you, I've been a director. I have owned 3 centers in my career, and I am currently actually in my center right now. So I'm also the owner of Childcare Business Professionals, where we help childcare owners find success. So say hello as you pop in. I'm hoping today that my feed works. Yesterday it wasn't working, but I am at my center today, so hopefully it will work. I'm not competing for bandwidth like I do at home so much, but I was hoping to make it home for this. It's easier for me to record these, but I couldn't get away from my center, so I'm still here. I'm actually in one of my classrooms right now since my son took over my office. So I'm actually working from here. So thank you for joining me. Hello. Let's see. I do have some comments. Hello, Amen. How are you? I am glad you're here watching today. I hope everybody's having a great week. We've made it to the halfway mark. It has been, I'm hearing from a lot of you that it's been a tough week. And I think a part of that is just, this is what, a lot of us are entering our 3rd week. Some of you guys are entering your 4th week of just the craziness. And I know in some states you're just starting this craziness. So welcome if you're just starting. Again, my name is Evelyn Knight and I am the host of the Childcare Business Coach podcast and also the owner of Childcare Business Professionals. So, and my goal, one of my goals through Childcare Business Professionals is to help owners find that balance between being successful as an owner and finding that they can maintain high quality standards. So it's something for many years that I struggled with, and so when I learned how to do that and I was still able to really bring in that high quality research-based standards, and I can't express to you guys enough how important the research behind that is. When I was able to learn how to balance all that and still be able to make a living, it was fantastic. So Leanne says amen. Yes, Leanne is going to definitely be a cheerleader. When I first started, I've got to tell you, I'm going to do a piece on quality tomorrow, so I won't get too much into it today. But I didn't think it was possible to maintain high quality standards and turn a profit. And as an owner, my first probably 5 years, I didn't realize, and I thought it wasn't possible. And I'll tell you, I was so wrong. Not only is it possible, but as an owner, you're more financially sustainable when you hold your center to high quality research-based standards. Just, I've got to stress though, again, that research-based, they can't just be standards that we decide, or that even, you know, right now commercialization makes us think quality is one thing that it really isn't. But we will get into that tomorrow. So again, I'm just going to recap what we've been over this week and how it is going to help you to make sure that your center can be one of the centers that not only survives this, but you can be better and stronger from all of this. So for those of you who are running at lower capacities right now, or if you're closed, there's so much you can be working on to make your centers stronger so that when we come back from this, not only will we be a better business for it, but we will be a stronger business, right? So many of you guys that I've heard from in the last couple weeks have really stressed on how we want to be seen as professionals, that we want the world to see our profession as professionals. So what I'm here to say throughout this week is if we want to be seen as professionals and we want that reputation, then we need to act like it. We need to do our part so that people will see us and recognize us as the professionals we deserve to be, right? So a lot of the things I'm going through this week, I'm really just stressing to you guys how that, you know, that what is so important on being that professional so that we get the respect that we so desperately want in our field. But remember, something I always tell my own children, respect is something we earn. It's not something that's just freely given. So we need to earn it too, right? We need to just get out of that daycare mentality, and we need to start being the leaders that deserve the respect, okay? And I'm not saying that we don't. We do. We work so hard. We absolutely do. But we need to show the world that we are also professional and we are leaders. So just going over again, day one, we talked about vision. Why is your vision so important to being a successful childcare center, right? It's that destination that you're always trying to get at. And excuse me, I'm going to take a sip of water. I don't know, I've been really dry, so make sure I have it with me. And the vision is like that destination. It's what we're trying to get at. It's what we're trying to achieve, right? And it's also can help us to relieve a lot of stress and anxiety because we're working for something bigger. It's not just about running a center and making a paycheck. It makes it just something bigger that we're working towards. I told you guys I have a big, audacious vision. My vision is to make sure that all children, regardless of where their background is, how much money their family makes. I know I said they're socioeconomic, but I just realized, well, maybe not everybody knows what a socioeconomic status means. But for me, my vision is that all children, regardless of their parents' paycheck, regardless of where they live, they should all get the opportunity to attend a high quality program, right? A high quality childcare. That is my big audacious vision. And I also shared with you guys that the vision that I created for myself 6 years ago, when I look around at my life today, when I actually pulled it out the other day, it's actually all come to fruition. Everything that was in my vision casting that I created 6 years ago is actually alive today. So what might seem to you like a huge impossible goal today, when you create the vision and that roadmap to get there, it actually becomes possible. So that's, why you want to have a vision, because if you're ever going to fulfill who you can really be in this world, you need to know what you're working towards, right? So that's why it's so very important. So yesterday we talked about your center's culture and why your center's culture is so important. And your center's culture, I told you that I was really toying with, am I going to go with culture or am I going to go with brand? And the reason I decided to go with culture is because your culture will actually determine what your brand is. And it will really, when you're intentional about it and you intentionally set those things out and you find what are your values, and then you intentionally start putting those values into your center and making them policy and what you train on, then your brand will become a part of the culture that you're creating, right? So that's why culture is so important. It's what will drive your reputation. It's going to be what people talk about. If there's people that are talking about your center, and that you don't know anything about, it's who you are to them, to the public perception. And I was thinking, if you think of like Macy's versus Walmart, right? What is the public perception? Those two stores were very intentional about what you think, right? I can say something like the Golden Arches, and you're automatically going to get a picture in your head of the culture that company, and I don't even have to say the company's name, you guys all know, but it creates that feeling inside of you, right? So that's what you want to go for, is your culture is going to create that brand. It's going to create that feeling. So it's very important that you take control of that. And I can tell you guys that if you don't take control of it, your center will have a culture, but you want to control that, because a lot of times cultures can be what you don't want, right? If one of the things I was thinking about after I did the recording yesterday is, when people think of daycare as a whole, it can have a pretty negative persona, right? There's a lot of people who you hear a movement of, oh, I'll never put my child in daycare. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Those are the kind of culture thought processes we can break away from, but we have to earn it, and we have to do the work to intentionally get away from that. So that's why I suggest really just being intentional, making sure that you're doing everything in your control to live up to the culture you want, so that you are creating your center's reputation instead of letting something else create that reputation for you. So I told you guys that for my values, integrity, and my two big ones, there's actually three that we live by. It's research-based quality is number one. a nurturing, loving environment is number 2. And they are very close in number 1 and 2, right? You can't have one without the other. And then also having a place of integrity. Those are the 3 big things that everything we do revolves around. All the decisions we make, where my company goes, those are the 3 big things that I look at. Even for this company, this is what I'm doing. Why do I serve you guys so much? Why am I giving you guys so much free information? Something I keep getting asked. It's because those are the principles that I live by. That integrity, that serving, you know, the nurturing and serving and quality. So that's why also whenever I bring you information, I make sure it is absolutely research-based and I'm not releasing any information that hasn't been backed or isn't from a reputable source. So you have to be very intentional. There's just to make sure that you're always keeping your integrity intact. So today, the next step is leading and managing your dream team. And if you have your workbook, you'll notice I did make this in the leading and managing your dream team. And I told you guys on the first day that I really toyed with, I know that the team is this pillar, right? One of the pillars to success is absolutely your team. But I've thought of how am I going to word this? Because I know a lot of leaders out there are automatically going to think to themselves, yeah, well, my team's, they're no dream team, right? But what I know now is that we can lead any team, our team, to become a dream team. It's really up to us. And when you've got your vision in place and you know those values that are going to set your culture, that is going to open your eyes up to the kind of people you need to hire. It's going to really help reveal the type of people that you need to hire. And I know the first objection I'm going to get to this is, well, the hiring pool is so tough. The only people that apply for jobs are people who don't live up to my expectations. And what I have to say to that is your center probably has a brand out there and it's got a reputation. You're attracting what you're putting out into the world. So when you start hiring that bar for yourself as a leader, when you start hiring that bar for your center as a whole and focusing on quality, the quality is going to start coming, okay? And I've told you guys also, I am in the same boat. I cannot afford to pay what my staff afford, what they deserve. I can't afford to pay them what they deserve, but I still get the quality people. And I get them for a couple reasons. I get them because I'm willing to nurture, train, and build them up, right? But I'm looking for something different. I'm not looking for people specifically that have experience or even education. I will put them on a plan to get them the education they need. I'm willing to train them, but I am looking for certain personality traits, right? I've zeroed in my hiring process to a science, which is something I do train my members on how I get these people. The other thing I do is I recruit. I go after people. I don't wait for them to come and apply with me. And I've told you guys, if you listen to my podcast, I've told you one of my big things is I love bringing in stay-at-home moms, especially ones that are my customers. I can see what kind of ethics they have. I can see, you know, kind of get a good sense of like if they're responsible or not. And it just makes it easier for me to turn them into really great employees because they're happy for the opportunity and they usually become some of the most loyal people. So I'm not always waiting for people to apply. I very rarely wait for people to come to me looking for a job. More often than not, we're out finding people. And that's usually if, you know, we have our eye on somebody, we may approach them. Sometimes, I'm not saying, I mean, every now and then we do have to go for which is an absolutely grueling process. I don't like having to hire by like posting on Indeed or something. It's not fun. I have used Indeed and ZipRecruiter, but I would much, much rather recruit. It's just so much easier. And when you've got your vision and your culture and those values pieces in place, you guys are going to start noticing the type of people that will fit into your culture. You're going to start seeing that. And you're going to start noticing some of your stay-at-home moms that might be customers, or even a local college student that you know. You're just going to start noticing like, ooh, that person would be a great fit for what I'm trying to accomplish at my center. And those are the people you're going to start recruiting and bringing in, right? Your current team. what I want you to start paying attention to is, who is that person that you just can't live without? And think of to yourself, why? Why is this person such a vital piece of my organization? Why are they so important to my preschool? Write out the traits. And I know I tell you guys to do a lot of writing, but if you're really going to get your center to a level of greatness, to that level of excellence where people are lining up to get in, where agencies are telling parents that's where you want your children, then these are the kind of things you got to do. You've got to take the time, you guys. You've got to take the time to get this stuff done. So figure out exactly, what is it that I want? Why is this person such a stellar employee? What is it about them? And look at things beyond they don't call in, they're always on time. I want you to look at, what are they doing in the classroom? What is it about the outcomes they're producing that makes them such great employees, right? So then you're going to kind of figure out those traits, and that's what you're going to start kind of really looking for. Look at, what do they value? Are they like really family people? Are they just, really active? Do they love doing sensory play? I want you to pull all of that out, because you're going to find that it's a type of person that you're looking at. And that's the type of person, when you start doing interviews or you're looking to recruit people and bring them in, that's the type of person you're really going to want to start focusing on, right? And that is really one of the things that I've done. I know exactly what type of person. And on my team, and my staff knows, I tell them in staff meetings all the time, if I hired them, it means I saw something in them during the, and I still interview, don't get me wrong. Even if it's somebody I'm recruiting, I still go through the interview process. I still do all that. But if they make it past my interview process, which I have a 3-step interview process, if they make it past all of that, then there was something I saw in them that I knew I could bring in. Like, a good example of what I mean is, I cannot teach somebody how to be a nurturing human being. You're either born nurturing or you're not, right? But I can train them how to run a preschool room. I can put them through school, right? I mean, in Nevada, we have the TEACH program. I love it. And we do go through CDA. I will put my staff through CDA. We do use this TEACH program. But those are the kind of things I can train. But I cannot train someone on how to be a loving human being, right? I cannot train empathy in an adult. So that's what I'm really looking for, is just, where is their heart, right? And you may have different values. I'm not saying that your values have to mimic mine. I'm just saying those are the values that I'm looking for. And I've just created my own interview questions, which, and my background, of course, does help, since I do have degrees in psychology and human development. That does help me a lot. But I've just created different criteria I'm looking for in order to make sure that the people I'm bringing into my center are fitting my values, my philosophy, and will fit into the culture that we've created here, right? I'm making sure they are a match and that they're not going to suck my center down, because your team is the key to your success. You cannot be everywhere. You cannot do everything. So we have to give it to our team, right? Especially if you're an owner who eventually wants to be able to retire, you're going to have to rely on someone to do this. If you're a director who doesn't want to work 60-hour weeks, you've got to give it to your team. Okay. So that's where just that foundational piece. And like I said yesterday, you guys, as you start growing, as you start getting to be a bigger and better organization, there are going to be people who walk away, and that's okay. That just wasn't meant for them, and it will. And I know sometimes it's painful. I've lost people who've been with me for years, but in the long run, it turned out to be the best thing, because they weren't matching my company's culture. And I was able to bring other people in who were a better match and who made my center better. So just know, and again, I'm going to just go back to yesterday. I told you guys, listen to my podcast episode that talks about when it's time to say goodbye. I do talk about that a lot more in there. So part of that success is knowing that the people, part of being a successful center is the people, right? Whether it's your customers or your staff, it is still the people. They are going to be really what is going to make you sustainable. They are really going to, your growth and your sustainability is dependent on your staff. Think about when parents unenroll and leave, it's usually because something happened. I mean, not always, but if it was a legitimate reason, like if you were going to be completely honest with yourself, the last child that left your center, or the last few, I'm sure a couple of them were because of something that happened, right? And that's when you have to really step back and ask yourself, is this something that my center has earned? Is it because of a certain team member? Is it something that we've done? So that's lost revenue that didn't have to happen because of people interaction, right? So your people that work for you are going to end up being the key to your sustainability. That's why having a great team is so important, you guys. Having a good director, having good teachers, it is so important. So what we want to do, though, is make sure that we are making our expectations clear to our team, right? One of the things I hear a lot of times too is they should just know. If there's this work that needs to be done, they should just know. And I'm here to tell you that's really not the case. They're not going to just know, okay? We expect, as leaders and as managers, we expect so many of our team members to be like us. You know, if, like for me, I'm always just really hyper focused on what the parents see all the time. So if I see something like a mop bucket like left out, it just automatically like, oh, why did they leave that out, right? That's my initial reaction. But not everybody sees the world like I do. And I have to step back and remind myself, okay, I might see the world this way. I might always be thinking in terms of how do things look? What is the perception? But most people don't think that way. So I cannot expect my team to think like I think. I cannot expect them to read my mind. So when I'm upset or disappointed with them, because in my mind I'm saying something like, well, they should just know, then that's my fault. That's not their fault. It's not their fault for not performing something that I never bothered to say to them, just because I assume they should know better, right? That is not their fault. That's my fault, because I'm projecting my thoughts and who I am on a totally different human being, right? So that's something to really think about. When you're just expecting your staff to do something, but you've never set a precedence for it, but you've never verbalized it, then you really have to ask yourself, who owns this problem? I mean, and I'm going back to the same kind of language we use with the children, right? Who really owns this problem? Is it us for not really setting up clear expectations, or is it our staff? So really think about that. We really need to let them know our expectations. And when you have your vision and your values really, really clearly defined, you're going to be amazed at how many of those expectations your staff is automatically just going to know. It's really kind of a cool thing that happens. If they know that quality is the number one, like I've told you, that is my superpower, right? It is quality, quality, quality. And it's something, you guys, I'm always telling them. They know this all the time. It's like, oh, you guys know we got quality, we've got quality. I probably say it 10 times a week somewhere. But then they start looking at it like, it changes and shifts their thinking, right? And so what I'm doing is I'm shifting and training them to think more like me. I'm shifting them and helping them to see, like, I will point something out like, hey, you guys, if the parents see that we're leaving mop buckets laying around, then that really doesn't display our quality, right? Because it just shows that we weren't proactive enough to notice and just left things lying around. So then the next time, if something else is just left lying around, then they look like, oh, if we're just leaving things lying around, that's not really a reflection of our quality. So those are the kind of things that you've got to verbalize and give them the why. You got to tell them why, right? Otherwise, I know a lot of times, a lot of the things that I'm really picky about might just seem crazy, because I can be really, really nitpicky, but I'm always looking at that bigger picture, right? So I have to verbalize to my teachers why. Why am I so nitpicky about things like that? Why am I so nitpicky about if there's eating lunch and, you know, somebody spills on the floor? Why am I so nitpicky that it gets cleaned up immediately? Okay, So it might, to them, they might just be like, okay, it can wait a minute. I'm doing this and this. Like, no, it can't. And this is why. So when you get them to see the why and really understand why you want this done, why do you think it should get done, why do you think they're not noticing it, they will start noticing more things. It's just about making your expectations really, really clear, right? And the other thing I have to say on that is, remember, as directors and owners, we are leaders, right? Not everybody is cut out to be a leader. Some people will always just be employees, and that is just how their brain works. What happens, though, is we project our leadership thought process. We project how we see things and do things onto them, when really these people, it's not who they are. They're never going to be that leadership type of thinker, right? But we're expecting them to be. And that's why we need to get realistic with who we are and how we think, and not project our own thoughts and our own behaviors on these people, because it's never going to work, right? So you've got to be clear on those expectations. So when you get clear on those values and vision, it'll help you to get clear on those expectations, and you'll be able to start verbalizing them more. So that's really just, and it's really going to help you create that culture of excellence, right? When you have those clear expectations, you're going to establish a work culture that really helps that, right? You're also going to have a clearer definition of the type of person you want on your team. It's really going to help you to know who you want to attract and who you don't want to attract. It's that image and that thought process that's really, really going to help you out with that. So one of the other things, just shifting gears now from your expectations, is ownership. If you want your staff to really buy in to all of this, to buy into your culture and to buy into your vision, you have to give them ownership somehow. You've got to figure out what is in it for them. How can I give them something back? How can I give them a place that they're proud to work for, right? How can I make my vision their own and give them purpose? And like I said yesterday, the number one thing employers, there was a survey, and I will look it up, the source, you guys. I can't remember if it was Forbes or Insider Magazine, but basically I was reading a couple, it was probably about 2 years ago, that was showing like the top 5 things that employees are looking for. And the number one thing employees look for is not money like most of us think. It's actually, they want to know that their work is meaningful. They want to know that they made a difference in the world, right? That is the most important thing people are looking for in a job, is they want to know they go to work every day to make a difference. So when you're giving your employees ownership, you've got to figure out that vision and how are they a part of it. You've got to give them ownership of their vision, right? So one of the things we do is every January when we do our staff meeting, and I actually I forgot to do that this year, which is something we talked to that we've got to get done. I make each classroom come up with their own vision for their classroom. Like, what would you like to accomplish this year for your classroom? What vision do you have? And we really usually do kind of like a workshop style, but this year was a little bit crazy for me because my husband had a stroke in January. So it got a little bit different for me, but normally they'll create, and we do vision boards. We do our vision casting through a vision board. So they actually will create their vision board. We post it so they can see it throughout the year. So not only do they know the center's overall vision, right? But then as a classroom team, they get together and they figure out what is their classroom vision for the year. So that way I'm giving them ownership into the center, right? Then they feel like this is theirs. And it really, really gives them that sense of they're a part of this. This is their team, and now they've got something to work towards, right? So that is really, really something just to think about. How can you really help? There's Miss Jill. Hi, Miss Jill. You popped up for me. A lot of other people didn't. I miss you. So Miss Jill is actually one of my staff members that I really miss right now. But giving them ownership is so, so important, and also making them feel appreciated. That was actually the number 2 thing on the list of what employees want the most, is they want to feel appreciated. They want to know that they're making a difference in the world, and they want to feel appreciated. So finding ways to tell them that you appreciate it, that you want them around. You guys, you've got to know that your team is what makes your center. It's not, I mean, you're going to lead it, right? And you're going to create that vision and mission, but they're the ones doing the work to fulfill it. They're the ones who are actually doing the hard work every day. So I know that my team is vital to my center. Without them, my center doesn't function. I can't do all this by myself. So they are really what makes my center great. It's not me, and it's not the work I do. It is them. It's the work that they come in and do. They're the ones on the front lines with the children, really putting that effort forward. And so, you know, that's where when you understand that too, and you start empowering them and you get this amazing team, it's really cool how, like, for me, it's given me just this gratitude towards them. I'm so grateful for the team I have, because I know how wonderful they are. So Anna Marie's asking, did you end up closing it? I am still open. I'm open. It is getting hard. I have to admit, at this point, it's getting hard being open, but we are still open. So speaking of, like, just really trying to help your team, and I always try to be really conscious. I mean, my staff is the most important thing for me, because I know without my staff, without nurturing them, without taking care of them, my center is really just, what is it? It's just a couple walls, right? So I have given them the choice. I don't want them to feel unsafe working. I don't want to put them in a position where they feel like they're, I don't know, just compromising their own safety by coming to work every day. So I have given them the choice. So, which is, it's starting to get a little bit difficult, though. I have to say, I do have some substitutes waiting in the wings, but I'm getting down to the point where I'm so short-staffed right now. Like, we're just right where we are. And I'm used to having 1 to 2, at least a couple extra people. And that, I mean, and that's not even including like my director and my assistant director. I usually have at least 1 extra person on staff all the time in case someone calls in. So I'm used to having, like, at any given time, 3 people that can jump in the classroom just in case, right? So right now we're like right where we need to be, +1. So to me, that just feels so tight. So it just kind of, it's getting a little bit difficult right now, but we'll make it. I mean, I'll figure it out. I always do. And I do have the subs. I just have been reluctant to bring them in because they don't know the children. They don't know the procedures and processes. So if push comes to shove, I will absolutely bring my substitutes in, but I'm just kind of holding off until I have to, just to make sure. But my priority is to make sure that my staff feels safe and that they, you know, feel secure. I don't want to force anyone here that doesn't feel secure. So, so yeah, going back to the ownership thing, just figure out a way to give your staff ownership and let them know how much you appreciate them. Make sure you're telling them somehow. One of the things I've talked to you guys before, I like to keep a stack of $5 Starbucks gift cards. Sam's Club sells 10 of them for $40 in my area. So I usually will just buy them, because when you notice little things, you can just give them the gift card. It's a really easy way to just tell them thank you, give them the gift card, and just knowing that you appreciate them, and also just pointing it out and telling them thank you sometimes, right? Like right now, I'm trying to post on my staff's Facebook page just to let them know that I miss having them around. I've got this amazing team, and I know I have a dream team, and it's thanks to them. So I'm trying to remember to post at least every other day something about, like, thank you guys for being you. I'm so grateful. Even if you're not here, I'm still grateful for you being our employee, even if you're not here right now. So showing them especially those staff that are just so vital to you, make sure they know how much you appreciate them. It is so important. And you really, sometimes we got to acknowledge how important they are. I have said I think it was on my podcast. I'll tell you guys a story that really stuck out to me. And I actually so there's a podcast episode that I have. It's called, Are You the Employee You Want Your Staff to Be? Right? Are you being the employee? Something like that. You want your staff to be. And I'll actually link it for you guys. But one of the things, I was doing employee reviews at the end of last year, and I was just like closing out my year doing reviews, and there was one of my staff members that I had been kind of annoyed with. And I just kind of felt like she wasn't living up to my expectations. She's a phenomenal teacher, but I felt like she just wasn't living up to what I felt she should be doing, right? So I was doing her employee review, and when I pulled out the paper to do it, I said to myself, like, oh, this is going to be terrible. She just hasn't been doing great, right? And talk about mindset, right? Going into a mindset like that, it was terrible for me. But, you know, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, she's not been doing great. So I pull out this review, go to do it, and lo and behold, the review was near perfect. It was one of the best reviews I had done that entire year. Mentally going in, I thought it was going to be horrible. But as I'm completing it, I'm looking like, okay, so what's wrong with this picture? Here, I just did it. She's checking off everything. Now, I've written my own reviews. I've done this. This is my written based on my expectations that I've established for my staff, right? So if her employee review comes out stellar, then again, who owns that problem? The employee or me? That was definitely my problem, not hers. And it really opened my eyes to the fact that this person is living up to the expectations that I established for her. So why have I been disappointed in her, right? That was me, not her. So that's why it's important to you guys to have those checklists and to just be realistic about the expectations you have for your staff. For a couple weeks, I had been looking at this employee like she wasn't cutting it and just kept asking myself, like, what is going on with her? And I really couldn't put my finger on it. If there was something specific, I would have brought her in and talked to her about it. But there wasn't anything really specific. I just felt like she just wasn't up to the par that I wanted her at, right? But then as I'm doing a review, I'm like, wait a second, she's hitting everything I put out there for her. She's doing all my expectations. She's fulfilling them, all the ones that I had verbalized to her. So I realized if there's something she's not doing that's disappointing me, then that's my fault. That's not her fault. It's my fault for not voicing what I want out of her, right? It's my fault for not letting her know what I am expecting. If she's fulfilling all my expectations that I've established, yet I'm still disappointed, then that's my fault, right? So that's something that just really think about that. So if you're disappointed in your employees, you got to step back and ask yourself, why? Have I asked them to do what I expect of them? Have I verbalized this? Have I let them know this is what I want or expect out of them? And if the answer is no, if there's nowhere or any time that you haven't established that, then the problem lies with you and not the employees. We cannot assume they know what we want. We cannot assume that they see what we see. If we haven't voiced it, then the problem lies with us. So I hope that helps you guys. And again, going over your workbook, just some things to think about on that is think about what kind of expectations you can start creating now for your staff, right? What are the stuff that you can start putting into place right now for your staff so that you can have realistic expectations? Use those values from yesterday's portion of the workbook, and based on those values and based on your visions, what kind of expectations do you want to establish for your staff, right? The other thing on that is it'll help you from leading in a place that you can go from being somebody who's like so rule bent, like you broke the rules, you did this and that, to more of a value based, which is so much easier. It's so much easier going off of values instead of having a bunch of rules and checklists that you have to follow. And I'm sure all of us who have a job has worked for that place where there was just rule after rule after rule after rule, right? And nobody likes working in that kind of a culture. But if you have values that you're asking people to hit instead, so much easier to manage people. Rules and being rule-based makes people feel like they're children, and they're really just not gonna, you're not gonna be a fun person to work for. They're not gonna really want to stick with you because they're being treated like children, right? But when you're value-based, that makes them feel more empowered and it gives them more ownership. So you want to kind of shift your thinking, right? From being rule-based to value-based. The other thing I want you guys to think of is the difference between being a leader and a manager. And there are times where we do have to be managers too, right? But leaders are focused more on like just those values instead of the rules, right? And what good leadership produces, it actually produces commitment. It actually produces better outcomes, right? And it'll produce that loyalty that all of us want so bad. You want higher employee retention, you need to be a leader. If you want better customer retention, family retention, you need to lead, right? But at the same time, we need to manage, okay? So a manager is going to be more tactical. Those are going to be your policies, your procedures, which are also very important, especially when it comes to like the parent side of things. So that's going to be like your procedures on how you, payments and different things like that, right? It is going to be things like your sick policy, your call, because we still need guidelines, right? But when your staff is led by value, it's a lot easier to deal with staff call-ins because sometimes we are a little bit more realistic too. Like for me, making sure my staff's mental health is very important. Whereas, so if they need to call in for mental health day and they tell me, I'm just like, okay, fine. Mental health is so important. You need a mental health day, take a mental health day. But at the same time, we can't have mental health days every week, right? So that's where the managerial part of it comes in. So the nice thing management wise is management is like your fiscal responsibilities too. So learning to balance those two is so important. But if you really want that loyalty, you want to lead. You don't want to always manage, right? You've got to make sure you're doing both. So the next thing on our worksheet is what goals can you create for your teachers? And this one I would really suggest too, getting their input on it, asking them. I know like my director does monthly meetings with each teacher, you guys. Every month she does an observation in every classroom and she schedules meetings with the teachers, right? And she does classroom meetings once a week. She does a different classroom meeting and has time to meet with every teacher through those classroom meetings, and she does observations of the teachers. And that's something I do train on. If you're a member of mine, that's something that will be part of the whole big picture, the time management. Because I know the first thing that runs into directors and owners' head is I don't have time for that. You do, I promise. When you learn how to manage your time, you've got time. And when you want to have a high quality program, you will find the time, right? So that's something, it just have them create their goals. Help them to create goals, but let them be a part of that. You don't want to just give them their goals. You want to give them ownership of those goals. And then also the next thing is, how will you empower your team? Think of ways that you're going to give them that ownership. And it can be other things. Get them invested in your center. Maybe one of the things we do too, we have committees. And like we have a committee who helps coordinate monthly potlucks. And then there's another group that help make sure we recognize all the birthdays. And then we have a committee that will help us with the 4th of July parade. Then there's, it just gives them ownership in the center. It gives them more than just their classroom. It makes them a real part of that team. And it also sends a message that I trust them enough to lead something, right? So that's just an example of different things you can do to empower your team. And make sure on that empowerment that you're putting appreciation, showing some kind of appreciation. Come up with a plan, you guys. Things like appreciation can really be easy for you to lose focus on if it's not something that's planned. So when I say plan it, make sure you're still authentic though. And when it comes to things, one of the first questions I usually get is, what about something like employee of the month? I don't do employee of the month personally because it would take me a long time to get through all my employees, and I want to appreciate them more than just once a month. And I also want to do more than just one of them a month. So we might feature an employee of the month in like our school newsletter, but I don't per se do employee of the month, because honestly, if I'm only recognizing employees once a month, then I'm never going to do nearly enough recognition. I mean, maybe I could even see doing an employee of the week or an employee of the day, but employee of the month would not get me enough of the recognition I need to be giving my staff. So just kind of keep that in mind. It should be more than just once a month. And that's why I like recognizing mine when I notice something immediately, or my director notices something immediately. If they've been going above and beyond, she just, she's got that stack of cards and that we always keep here. We can just give them out. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. I've been getting some messages. Let me know. And otherwise, that is what I have for you guys today. And also, if you don't have your workbook yet, I know Brianna has been working really hard going through all the posts to make sure everybody's got them. It does get a little bit difficult, you guys, because there's so many different threads that requests for the workbook are coming in. So sometimes it gets a little bit hard for us to make sure that we're getting them all out to you. So I will reboot that one post I have that asks if everybody has a workbook. And if you guys don't, make sure you just comment in there. That way she can find it, or in here too, because she does check these feeds too, to make sure anyone that needs a workbook gets it. So if you guys don't have any questions, I'm going to end it. I hope you guys all have a great, let's see, amen, you do. Will giving incentives be a type of appreciation for my staff? I think it can be, yes. And it really does depend on how you, it's really how you spin it. So yes, incentives can absolutely be a way of appreciation. I think when they fulfill the incentive, I would just really make a big deal, like, thank you so much, here you go, So just kind of watch how you're doing it and make sure that when you're presenting it, you're thanking them and you're acknowledging their effort. Whatever you're doing an incentive for, whatever they fulfill. But yeah, I think that would definitely work. So any other questions? And then on Saturday during our Zoom session, I'll definitely answer some questions. I've been getting some questions in Messenger that I will also be answering through the Zoom. And then, so if you guys can make it, I will post the link on that probably Saturday morning. And that's what I've got today. So if you guys don't have any questions, I'm going to sign off and go home and cook my family dinner. So I hope you guys all have a great rest of your evening, and I'll see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. my time. Bye.